No one in the Galactic Concord believed the marriage would matter. It was meant to be symbolic, an old ritual from a more primitive age, repurposed to end a modern war. A gesture, a signature written in flesh instead of ink. The Valerian High Council expected a quiet human diplomat, someone agreeable, weak, and easily controlled. They did not expect Ethan Hale. Beginning a marriage for peace. The war between the Valerian Dominion and the outer colonies had dragged on for 11 cycles. Entire star systems burned. Trade lanes collapsed. Refugee fleets clogged neutral space. And at the center of it all was a single, frustrating truth. The humans would not submit. Humanity was new to the galaxy. Barely 2 centuries into faster-than-light travel. They lacked the numbers of the insectoid Kepri, the ancient technologies of the Threx, or the psionic might of the Valerians themselves. Yet every time the Concord tried to force compliance, human fleets adapted. Every defeat became a lesson. Every loss sharpened their response. So the Valerians proposed something different. A marriage. Princess Sailira Valketh, third in line to the Valerian throne, would wed a human representative. The union would symbolize unity, bind humanity into the Concord, and end the war without further bloodshed. The High Council approved unanimously. Choose carefully, Sailira said coldly as she observed the human candidates on a hollow display. I will not be shackled to a brute. The Valerian advisors exchanged glances. We have selected someone suitable, one replied. A logistics officer. No command history. No psionic aptitude. Minimal combat exposure. The image shifted. Ethan Hale stood in a simple uniform, dark hair slightly unkempt, posture relaxed to the point of disrespect. His record was unremarkable. Supply coordination, disaster relief, evacuation planning. No medals. No battlefield commendations. Perfect. Sailira studied him with faint disdain. He looks fragile. He is human, the advisor said smoothly. That is expected. When Ethan was informed of the decision, he listened in silence. You understand this is a political union, the human envoy said carefully. You'll be under constant observation. Your role is to maintain peace. Ethan nodded once. Understood. What no one said aloud, the envoy added, lowering his voice, is that you're expendable. Ethan smiled faintly. I figured. The wedding took place on Velaria Prime beneath crystalline spires and a sky lit by artificial auroras. Billions watched across the galaxy. The war officially ended the moment Sailira and Ethan clasped hands. Applause echoed. The Concord breathed a sigh of relief. Peace was secured. So they thought. Middle, the human who didn't fit. Life within the royal palace was rigid, ceremonial, and deeply alien. Sailira tolerated Ethan but felt no affection for him. He was polite, reserved, and observant in a way she found unsettling. He asked questions, not about power or politics, but about Valerian history, military doctrine, and infrastructure. You're very curious for someone with no authority, she remarked one evening. Ethan sipped his drink. Logistics teaches you to notice patterns. She dismissed the comment. The palace guards did not. They noticed how Ethan mapped corridors mentally, how he adjusted to gravity shifts faster than Valerian soldiers, how he never panicked during sudden psionic surges, merely grounding himself and waiting them out. Rumors spread quietly. Still, no one saw him as a threat. That changed during the ambassadorial crisis. A rogue Kepri faction launched an assassination attempt against Sailira during a diplomatic summit. Psionic dampeners failed. Guards fell screaming as the attackers flooded the chamber. Sailira froze. Before anyone realized what was happening, Ethan moved. He pulled her down behind a collapsed pillar, ripped a weapon from a fallen guard, and began issuing commands, short, precise, and devastatingly effective. North flank is a feint. Real breach is below us. Seal the vents. Rotate shields. Now. The surviving guards hesitated, then obeyed. The attackers were neutralized in under 3 minutes. When the dust settled, the chamber was silent. Every Valerian present stared at Ethan. That was impressive, Sailira admitted later, shaken. Ethan shrugged. Emergency coordination. Old habit. She frowned. From logistics? From human logistics, he corrected gently. The council began investigating. What they found disturbed them. Ethan Hale wasn't just a supply officer. He was part of a classified human doctrine known as total systems warfare, a philosophy that treated battlefields, economies, psychology, and infrastructure as a single interconnected weapon. He had coordinated evacuations under orbital bombardment, managed supply chains while planets burned, designed fail-safe systems meant to function even if command structures collapsed. He wasn't a warrior. He was worse. Escalation. The power revealed. The true test came 6 months into the marriage. A Valerian rival house staged a coup. Their fleets seized orbital control. Communications fractured. The capital descended into chaos. The High Council was paralyzed, unable to coordinate a response as ancient protocols failed under real pressure. Sailira was rushed into a secure chamber. Ethan followed. "What do we do?" she asked, fear bleeding into her voice. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. Then he took command. "First, we stop thinking like Valerians," he said calmly. "Second, we survive." He reactivated dormant human emergency protocols embedded quietly into the palace systems months earlier, protocols no one had noticed because they didn't look like weapons. Power grids rerouted. Food distribution stabilized. Civilian panic decreased as targeted information campaigns rolled out across public channels. Valerian admirals suddenly found their ships receiving optimized supply routes and tactical suggestions, generated by an algorithm Ethan had written years ago and never thought he'd need again. Within hours, the coup stalled. Within days, it collapsed. The rival house surrendered without a final battle. The galaxy was stunned. "How did one human do this?" the Concord demanded. Sailira stood before the council, her voice steady. "You misunderstood humanity," she said. "You thought power meant strength, weapons, or psionics. Humans define power differently." Ethan stood beside her, silent. "They survive by preparing for failure," she continued. "They build systems that assume everything will go wrong, and then make sure it doesn't." The council reevaluated the marriage. What had been intended as a leash had become a shield, and perhaps something more. Ending humanity's quiet dominance. The peace treaty was rewritten, not because humans demanded it, because no one dared oppose it. Human advisors were invited, not as rulers, but as planners. Human doctrines spread through the Concord, reshaping how wars were prevented instead of fought. Sailira and Ethan's relationship changed, too. It was no longer obligation. One night, standing beneath Velaria Prime's twin moons, Sailira asked quietly, "Did you know this would happen?" Ethan considered the question. "I knew you underestimated us," he said. "I didn't know you'd listen." She smiled faintly. "I married a human for peace." "And?" he asked. "And I discovered," she said, "that peace is humanity's most dangerous weapon." The galaxy learned the lesson soon after. Humans didn't conquer worlds. They stabilized them. They didn't overthrow governments. They made collapse impossible.